Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here with us, joining the DeKalb Dems for this very special event to showcase our amazing Democratic candidates for the House districts. And we have a number of House districts we're going to be looking at shortly. But first, I'm Gloria Moore, and I'm a vice chair with DeKalb Dems and also co-chair with Steve Parker for special events. And we are delighted to have our candidates here, as well as our audience and our moderators, especially. We have a very good support staff, volunteer support staff that has been putting on several forums over the last month or so. And we want you to know the whole purpose of doing these forums is for you, the voter. We are famous in DeKalb County for doing Get Out the Vote. And before we ask you to go vote, we want to at least educate you on what the issues are and who the candidates are. So again, thank you to everyone for being here this afternoon. I want you to know that those of you who are on Zoom, if you have any questions during the event, you can certainly put your questions in the chat. We may or may not have an opportunity to answer the questions live, but we do want to share them with the candidates and of course your comments as well. And if you're in a donating mood, we certainly take donations at DeKalb Dems. As I said, all of the folks who are involved in the candidate forum series are volunteers. But when we do Get Out the Vote, we do pay for canvassers, we have to pay for literature, signs, etc. And that's what we need to continue doing our work. Also, this program is being broadcast live over Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Typically at this time, John Jackson, who is arguably the best county chair in the state, would be bringing you greetings and telling you a little bit more about the organization. But as all of you know, it is Mother's Day weekend and he is entertaining his mother today. So we had to let him off, right? And so we're going to get started with our program because we know everybody's time is valuable and we know you have lots of things to do on this weekend. So I'm going to have my moderators introduce themselves. We have Ocha and Mike, and then they are going to introduce the candidates and let them have their opening statements and then get into some questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ocha to do her rules.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming this afternoon. I just wanted to quickly explain the ground rules set forth by the Planning Committee. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement. The next point is each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer questions. We have about 6 questions of each candidate, depending on time. And the last rule is that each candidate will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement. And with that, I wanted to pass it over to Mike Lynch to get us started.
All right. Thanks, Ocha. Hi, I'm Mike Lynch. I am a post-seat holder in the DeKalb Dems for HD 89 and resident of Kirkwood. I'm really excited to join this afternoon and help moderate this debate for House District 84 and wanted to welcome the candidates, Omari Crawford and Maurice Rayford. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. We're really excited to have you and appreciate you making the time to speak a bit with us and with the voters. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with the questions with a little bit of an introduction. Just a reminder to the candidates about the rules for time that we went over before and that Ocha just reviewed. So the Georgia House of Representatives is also called the People's House. Along with the Georgia Senate, it forms the legislative branch of the Georgia state government. The legislative branch works alongside the governor, of course, to create laws, pass laws, establish a state budget, raise and lower taxes, and vote to uphold or override the governor's vetoes. So I want to invite both of you to make an opening statement. We'll start with you, Mr. Crawford. What qualifications and experience do you have that make you uniquely suited for this position?
Thank you for that question. Thank you to the DeKalb Democrats for having us, and thank you for letting us share our platforms. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. all the mothers watching on before I start. I am Omari Crawford, and I'm a candidate for Georgia House District 84, which is a DeKalb County-based district. I'm a former DeKalb County School District student, a proud product of that school district, having attended Bob Mathis Elementary School, Chapel Hill Middle, graduated from Southwest DeKalb High School in 2004. I owe my entire development to the 84th district. And after finishing college and law school, I returned home because I wanted to roll my sleeves up and get involved in my community like I saw my parents do before me. I spent time as a substitute teacher before practicing law, representing clients throughout the state. And so my service is well documented. I care about this community because my parents, my family members, friends, and my teachers, and all of my mentors and the people that developed me still live in this district. And I sat in the same seats as these students currently sit in, so I care about our youth. For the last 3 years, I have been working for the DeKalb County Law Department, where I draft local legislation at the request of our elected officials, and I help to serve the citizens in that manner as well. So when you combine that professional experience with that personal experience and my passion for this community, I think that I have a unique understanding of the challenges that we face in the 84th district, and I think that I am uniquely qualified for this position. Thank you.
Mike, you're on mute.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt anybody. Appreciate that. Mr. Rayford, same question to you. What qualifications and experience do you have that make you uniquely suited for this position?
First off, thank you, DeKalb Dems, for having us out tonight. As Omari said, happy Mother's Day to all. My name is Maurice First, and I'm running for District 84. Usually I go over my platform of what I'm running on. What I want to do today is what I've heard from our citizens while I was out canvassing. Some of the major concerns of our citizens are, as we've seen with the Black Lives Matter rally, is police and making sure that community and police have relationships. Another is things for our children to do. Recently in our area, we had the Golden Glide incident. And then recently I attended a community meeting where they were trying to shut a gym down on Memorial Drive, which used to be Run and Shoot. It's now ISA. It's where students go to play basketball, do fitness. They have fitness class for women. And lastly, I was talking to a gentleman. He was worried about criminal justice. Some of the things that we run on is the DeKalb Dems. He was convicted of a crime. He's been out since 2007 and is unable to vote, unable to get a job. Speaking with community, this is why I feel that I am able to represent. I've gone through similar incidents with a father who was formerly incarcerated, a brother who's incarcerated. So I hold these things near and dear to heart. I can speak on my education as far as going to Andrew Young School of Policy for Urban Studies. But when I speak with community members, they want somebody that's going to represent. They want an everyday person that's going to take their issues to the Capitol and make sure that the DeKalb Dems or whatever political party that they have aligned with stands for their issues and make sure that it reaches the Capitol. I put my sign on my posters because if you don't know my name, you've seen me at the schools, you've seen me at community cleanups, and that's what I think I'm representative at. We're going to continue to be in the community and make sure community has representatives in policy. And thank you, Maurice Rayford, for District 84. And thank you again.
All right. Thanks so much for those statements, candidates. I want to turn now to some policy questions. As I'm sure you know, this week, a draft Supreme Court majority opinion focused on overturning Roe versus Wade, taking reproductive rights away from women across the country. Republican-led state governments like Georgia's have been preparing for this day by enacting trigger laws that would restrict or outlaw abortion entirely if Roe is ever struck down. Question to you is, what can Democrats do to combat the Republican-led effort of restricting or eliminating access to choice? And more importantly, what do you plan to do in the State House to protect women's right to choose and other constitutional rights for Georgia constituents? Mr. Rayford, we'll start this one with you.
Thank you. First off, the Roe versus Wade is instrumental in women's choice. I don't think the government should be telling women how they should govern their body, especially with different circumstances. We don't know why women are choosing to have these abortions or their choice with their body. So to shut that down would be detrimental to our community. If it is overturned, it will come to Georgia. And we've heard that Georgia will strike down abortion. with that, we need to work with rational Republicans to come up with the common sense policies so that we can make sure that that doesn't happen, so that we're not telling women what to do with their body and what they can't do with their body. So that's the first thing, working across policies. Second thing is informing our citizens who may not be informed of what is taking place, so they can come down to the Capitol and also rally with us so that we know that we have citizens that don't want this overturned, and making sure that community is involved in these decisions. So we shouldn't be telling women what to do with their body. And then secondly, working across the board to make sure that we make common sense policies to work with our counterparts so that this doesn't get overturned. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Mr. Crawford, same question to you.
Thank you. And sorry, I'm trying to mute and unmute. Thank you for your patience through this Zoom thing. In short, we must protect reproductive rights. And like Ruth Ginsburg previously stated, I too believe that any restriction on abortion interferes with the woman's autonomy to determine her life's course. We should allow women to choose. The new Supreme Court matter that you're discussing, Dobbs, what that has done is it prohibits the ability for people to choose their reproductive lives. And a Republican-sponsored bill that was just passed in the state of Georgia, Bill 41, essentially does the same thing. For that bill, there are a few exceptions of when women can get abortions. One of those is when there is a medical emergency, and the other is when there could potentially be, the pregnancy could potentially be futile. The problem with that Supreme Court decision and that particular bill is that it does not take into consideration some of the healthcare disparities that exist in this country and the healthcare disparities that exist in this state. It should be noted that Georgia is amongst the highest mortality rates in the country, and Black women are 3 times likely to die from pregnancy cause related deaths than white women. So allowing access to abortion can indeed protect life because it is a large issue, and we need to make sure that those rights are heard. If elected, what I want to do is make sure that people understand some of those disparities within the state, to make sure that people understand that, again, allowing people to have access to abortions can indeed be beneficial, and to also understand that if you restrict abortions like a lot of the states in this country have done, what you will do is that an adverse effect to the healthcare, because there are potential alternatives to legal abortions, and we want to make sure that we keep
Mr. Crawford, I'm afraid we're gonna have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question. Mr. Crawford, this is gonna be first for you. Conservative think tanks, such as the American Legislative Exchange Council and the State Policy Network for decades have influenced state legislators by such methods as sending what they call model bills to Republican legislators who rubber stamp them with their votes. These bills do not represent the will of the people of Georgia. These conservative think tanks need to be addressed at both the national and state levels. What would you suggest that Democrats do to eliminate the extraordinary power these think tanks have exerted over Georgia's legislative process for the past several decades?
Thank you for that question. As you stated, that there are think tanks that write these bills. And my response to that is very clear. If you are a state legislator, your job is to draft the bills. And so that should not be done. We should not allow think tanks to interfere with that draft or those bills to be drafted. And because if you are a legislator and you're not drafting the bills, you're not actually answering the needs of your constituents. So what I think is important is a few things. One, what we need to do is make sure that those who use these bills, that they're called out. And we need to make sure that they cite what it is that they're actually drafting. Where did they get this information from? What did they get the idea from, so that we can see some of these think tanks. We do not want these think tanks to interfere with the democracy process, because we want the voices of our citizens to be heard. And we can mitigate that impact of interruption and interference if we make sure that we do that. And the next thing, we need to focus on having open debates so that we can understand exactly where these issues come from and how these bills are being rubber stamped. And so we can know the source of them. I think what we need to concentrate more on the Democratic side is, again, listening to what the people are saying so that we don't fall into the same trap, and so that we can actually answer the needs of our constituents, because we need to protect democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rayford. Same question to you.
Yes, sir. So as we've seen, think tanks have been detrimental. We've seen that a lot in the 2020 election. People, especially in this technology age where information is so fluid, misinformation is also fluid. So it is our aspect of challenging this misinformation. With using that same technology information, we can broadcast these bills as far as on technology platforms, Facebook, Twitter, what's going to happen. A lot of times these think tanks are corporate platforms, and a lot of times our citizens are not involved in these processes. As you say, the people don't support these. When it comes to corporate donors, our legislators tend to lean towards those so that they make decisions with those. Also, we need to make sure that we are working with think tanks on our end to make sure that we're correcting information, making sure that we have done research that makes sense to what our people want, so that we don't have rigged elections or elections that are persuaded in a certain way to reflect a small portion of our population compared to the entire population. So mostly broadcasting those of what's going to take place, allowing our people to understand what's taking place, and then working to make sure that we are passing legislation that the community does align with and does make sense at the end of the day.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Our next question is going to go first to you, Mr. Rayford. In the legislature, what strategies would you implement to combat the Republican Party from passing laws that the majority of Georgians are against?
And I think that's a great question, especially in today's climate. One of the things that we've seen is the passing of the gun legislation, open carry. Anybody can open carry. Next thing that's coming down the pipeline is the abortion, the Roe versus Wade. You see that coming down. I think that to write off all Republicans, it will be detrimental, especially where they're controlling the House. Currently, we're a purple state, but Republicans control the House and the Senate. So one thing we have to look at is our younger Republicans are a little bit more progressive. So working with younger Republicans or even older progressive Republicans to come up with like-minded solutions so that we don't have these policies passed. And also working in those areas where Democrats are not represented in high mass and rural areas where they're Republican-led, working so that make sure their voice is heard in those areas so that there's not legislation over their area being passed that they don't agree with or they're not represented in. Because we don't want to have a population where people are not being heard just because it's led by leadership who's not listening to what's being heard in those rural areas. So finding common grounds with new progressive Republicans and also their constituents in those areas that may not agree so that we can make sure the policy is not passed that does not reflect what our Georgians want.
Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Crawford. Same question to you.
Thank you for that. As you know, a lot of the legislation, the bulk of the work will occur in committee. And that's when the bill will be reviewed and debated. So I think it's necessary at that time to invite people in to discuss that bill. And we're talking a collection of parties, from people who sponsored the bill, the author of the bill, experts in that particular subject, and as well as the community. By inviting that entire body in, we will now have a little more transparency, and we can have people that help to get the message out of how a particular bill or a proposed bill will impact our communities. And so I think that's important. What I would do as a legislator, if elected, is to make sure that I review every bill carefully, to make sure that I make the necessary edits, add languages, and amend the bills when necessary based upon what my constituents would want. So I can make sure that any bill that goes out is actually representative of what they would actually want. And I think offering an amendment to a bill, to an introduced bill, will have an impact because that bill will have to be voted on again. And so I would ensure that my constituents, if elected, are well represented. And that's what I would do if a legislator, to prevent some of these bills from being passed.
Thanks so much. Next question is going to be first for you, Mr. Crawford. Debating is fundamental to the legislative and campaign processes. Increasingly, Republicans are backing out of participating in campaign debates, indicating their lack of good faith as well as their lack of preparedness for the job. How do you plan to engage with Republicans during the midterm election cycle?
that question. And I think I can speak for Mr. Maurice Rayford when I will tell you that he and I would never back down from a debate. So forums like this are extremely important. And I want to make sure that people understand what my position is and what my values are, and that I am a representative of the people that I want to advocate for if elected into the state house. And so I think that it is instrumental for people to hear the platform points, for people to hear exactly what it is that I want to do and how I see it helping out this community and how I see that this community can continue to advance. And so I think that it is important to have healthy debates like this and to have forums like this. And that's what I want to continue to do. And I hope that I can speak with more Republicans because we need to understand their values, because if elected, I will be of 180 state representatives. And so it's important that I understand what they do. So I will move forward to continue to debate with Maurice Rayford, but I will also continue to debate with any Republican candidate. And I look forward to that.
Thank you. Mr. Rayford, same question to you.
Yes, sir. So as you stated, recently, a lot of Republicans have been backing out of debates. One issue that does cause, because debates are essential, it allows ideas to be challenged. So what Republicans are doing is running campaigns or running commercials or however they're getting their information out, and it's been unchallenged. A debate allows you to challenge that. It also allows you to get in front of people and challenge misinformation. So it puts you on the spot. So I think that's essential that our Republican counterparts do engage in debates. One thing that we have seen along the campaign trail, we've gone to several events, we've seen Republicans, we've engaged in conversation with them, making sure that they know where we stand, where they stand, and coming to an agreement or some type of logical, and I keep going back to logical and responsible policies, because that's what we want at the end of the day. We don't want policies that are not going to reflect what our people want. So it is detrimental that we do engage with our Republican counterparts. Whether they do come to a debate or not, we do need to challenge their arguments. And lucky enough, in our area, as Mr. Crawford stated, we are in a Democratic area. Majority of our population is Democratic. But when we do go to the Capitol, we will have to go to debates with Republicans. We will have to challenge their ideas. And that needs to be brought to the forefront as far as what ideas are being presented so that we can make sure we challenge those ideas and stop any misinformation.
Thank you, Mr. Rayford. This one is going to go first to you. How can the public of all party affiliations best get to know you?
First off, my website is Maurice Rayford for the Community 2022. I've also listed my cell phone. I've made a pledge that if you reach out to me, I'll get back to you within 24 hours to make sure that everybody's being heard and that everybody feels important. Also, I'm in my community. If you're in District 84, you've seen me around. So if they can stop me anytime on the street or wherever I'm at and ask questions or issue concerns that they want to hear heard. But again, if you're unable to see me, which most likely if you're in District 84, you're seeing me, go to the website, Maurice for the Community 2022.com. Also Maurice for the Community at gmail.com. And I'll get back with you and we can also speak on any issues that you may have.
Thank you so much. Mr. Crawford, same question.
Thank you very much. If a person wants to get to know me, the best thing to do is watch my actions. A lot of times we get caught up in debates, we get caught up in these forums, and a lot of people will tell you, candidates will tell you what they will and will not do. But I think the best way for anybody to get to know me is to look at my track record. Look at the things that I've committed my time to. Where you spend your time and where you spend your resources is indicative of the things that are important to you. And I have a well-documented track record that DeKalb County in District 84 is to me. And sure, somebody can go onto my website and they can learn all the things that I'm going to say in my platform points. And while that may give you some insight of who I am as a person and my values, I think that my reputation speaks for itself. So asking people around District 84 about the things that I've done, the things that I am committed to, will give you a best indication of who I am and the kind of leader that I will be if I am elected to this position.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. That was great. We're going to flip it around now and ask a little bit of the opposite question, which is, what are some of the ways that you will get to know your constituents and ensure that you listen to their needs if you're elected.
Thank you. And I assume that that's coming to me first. Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, I think it's important to get to know your constituents. And the best way that you can get to know your constituents is to be involved, to be amongst them, to roll your sleeves up, to get out there and figure out what it is that they need, what it is that they want to improve, so that we can together create solutions. We're a team. And as a member of this team, while I may be one of the people representing everyone in the district and under the Gold Dome, I still need to understand some of the intricate details. And you do that through lived experiences, not just through studies as you sit back in an isolated place. So getting out there and actually doing the work is important. Bringing back open forums. I want people to be able to speak with me about some of the issues that they have, even if I don't see them out there when I have my sleeves rolled up. So bringing back open forums is also going to be important to me, because together we are going to create solutions that will solve whatever problem that we have. We will move forward together. And that's how I will get to know my constituents.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rayford, same question. How will you get to know your constituents and listen to their needs if you're elected?
So I'll start with the past first. So one thing that we've been doing since December with the group I'm with is hosting forums online. We've had subject matter experts come in, speaking on issues of safety, economic development, housing, and livable wage. So we've been hosting forums since December, and having town halls, because the Zoom, it opens everything up. So when I get in office, I plan to host monthly Zooms with my constituents to get to know their needs. One thing I did do while I was canvassing and will continue to do is knocking on doors. I know we get a list of people who to knock on. I knocked on several doors and they said, no one's ever knocked on my door before. And it gave me heart, because these are the people who want to be involved, but they feel no one cares about them. So constantly going to places where politicians normally don't go, apartments, nightclubs where people hang out at, let them know that we're here with you and listening to the needs of those people who we stand to represent, whether it's criminal justice, single motherhood, livable wages. We want to make sure that we're where those people are, so that they can make sure that their voice is heard and that we can take those issues straight to the Capitol. So we're going to continue to host forums. We're going to continue to knock doors. We're going to continue to be visible. 50% of success is being present. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And I have a daughter at Southwest DeKalb, so I have to be present in the school system, mentoring students. So we'll continue to do that, make sure our community is clean and that we are carrying our constituents' concerns to the Capitol.
Thanks so much, Mr. Rayford. Steve and Gloria, I think that's the end of the planned questions, but I wanted to check to see if there had been any questions that have come in from the audience.
I don't believe so.
I hadn't seen any.
Okay.
If you have a question or would like to offer one of your own, that's fine. Otherwise,
Okay.
we will move on.
Okay, it says there was a question on Facebook. Is anyone able to find that one?
I didn't see it. Okay.
Kianta, it looks like you're able to see the question. If you wouldn't mind entering the question into the chat. I'm not able to see it on Facebook at the moment, but I'm happy to ask it if you wouldn't mind copying and pasting.
Did you say someone found it?
Yeah. Okay, it's a question from Larry Lowe, and it's around the DeKalb school system. And the question is just how you would use your position as a state representative to help improve the DeKalb schools. Important issue to everybody in the district. Mr. Rayford, I believe it is your turn to go first, so floor is open to you.
Thank you. The school system is a hot button issue in DeKalb right now with everything that took place. I'm gonna start with what I would do first. As far as extracurricular activities, making sure that all schools get funding so our kids can participate in extracurricular activities. That's outside of what's recently took place with the school board. Making sure that all kids have funding so that they can have 501c3 so they can participate in extracurricular activities, because those can be costly. And if our kids are not coming straight home from school, it's less likely for them to get involved in extra activities on the other end. So making sure that all students can be involved in that. As far as the issue that's taking place right now, we have to redo that and make sure that funding is going towards where it's supposed to be going towards. There's no reason that Druid Hills should have sewage coming up into the school. That's not a problem that just started yesterday. That's a funding problem that's making sure that that overfunding that we have that's being stored away is going to those schools. I know when my daughter was at Bob Methodist Elementary, she's in high school now, they ran out of, the heating went out in the middle of the winter. So they were eating in classrooms. That's a funding issue. That means that funding is not going to those schools. And it's not that the funding is not there. It's funding is not being used. So it is making sure that that funding goes to schools to make sure they have necessities, not only with heating and what they need, but also what they want to do. Make sure they can have a future ahead of them. So that's one of the key points, is making sure that funding is being spent in the right locations.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Crawford, same question.
Thank you very much for that question. As I previously stated, I'm a proud product of the DeKalb County School District. And so that school district is near and dear to my heart. You are right that we have had some issues within leadership at County School District, particularly with the release of our superintendent. Now we have an interim superintendent. Watching, I will tell you that the current superintendent, the interim, is an incredible leader, someone that has been within the school district for a long time. As a state rep, one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is that we address the needs of our school children and throughout this district and throughout the school system, and to make sure that we have funding for special needs, whatever those needs may be. So what we need to do is we need to roll up our sleeves, sit down with the DeKalb County School District and the Decatur City School District to determine what those needs, so that we can understand the agendas of those school board educators. It seems that some of the former state reps, they care more about controlling curriculums than they actually do about doing what's right for the students, in terms of making sure that they have after school activity, in terms of making sure that they actually have places and classes that are going to develop them moving forward. So I care about the development of our school children, and I want to make sure that I get the proper funding and I understand the needs so I can get those students exactly the resources to achieve at the next level.
Thanks so much, Mr. Crawford. We're going to move on now to closing statements, and both candidates will have the opportunity to make a closing statement up to 90 seconds before we move on to the next district's debate. So Mr. Crawford, we're going to start with you. Ready when you are.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here. Thank you for allowing us this platform to speak to everybody on this busy Mother's Day weekend. Once again, I am Omari Crawford, and I'm a candidate for Georgia House District 84. I'm a product of this district, and I want to make sure that I can represent the people, because the people of this district helped to develop me. I have a lifelong list of experiences, personal experiences that I'm going to use and utilize when it comes to leading this district. I want to make sure that all of the needs are met. And as someone who has been out there amongst the people, someone that has been working with some of our community leaders, I know that I can continue to on those relationships and develop others with some of our legislators who will be elected alongside me. I want to work hard to make sure that I uphold this district and continue to move it forward, even after we come out of this pandemic and some of the challenges that have been exacerbated because of the pandemic. If you want to learn more about me, visit voteomaricrawford.com. Voteomaricrawford.com, learn more about my platform points. Visit our Twitter, our social media platforms, Vote for Omari, to learn the things that I'm willing to do, I will do, and the things that I've done. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to more forums like this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford, for joining us. Mr. Rayford, your closing statement.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me. First, as I punched it in, community. I want to make sure that our community is involved. Regardless of how we vote on May 2nd through May 20th and May 24th, I want to make sure we're involved. Want to make sure we continue to be out in the community, making sure that everybody feels heard, from the smallest to the biggest people. I think that that's one thing as DeKalb Dems, well, the Democratic Party as a whole, we pride ourselves on making sure that people have a voice. We pride ourselves on making sure that people that may make mistakes, that they can get a second chance. I want to represent those people that we pride ourselves on, whether it is, like I say again, convicted felons, welfare, livable wages. I want to make sure that those people are heard and that that those policies that they want are heard so they don't lose interest in the political process. I want to make sure everybody feels fully engaged. As I stated again, you can reach me at mauriceforthecommunity at Gmail, also mauriceforthecommunity2022.com. And we're going to continue together to make our community better, District 84 and Georgia as a whole. And thank you again for having us. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there took time out to initiate with this process.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Rayford. I want to thank both HD 84 candidates for joining us today and taking time away from your campaigning to be with us. Good luck to both of you in the next phase of the campaign. With that, I'm going to turn things over to my new friend, Ocha, who is going to moderate our House District 86 today.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce the questions. The Georgia House of Representatives is also called the People's House, along with the Georgia State Senate. It forms the legislative branch of Georgia state government. The legislative branch works alongside the governor to create laws, pass laws, and establish the state budget, raise and lower taxes, and vote to uphold or override the governor's vetoes. And with that, I wanted to pass it to each of our candidates to allow them a chance to give them their opening statements, answering the question, what qualifications and experience do you have that make you uniquely suited for this position? And with that, I'm going to start with House District 86 candidate Jacqueline Adams to introduce herself. I believe Jacqueline may be muted. All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Amari Barnes until we can get Jacqueline on. Amari, you ready?
Hello, my name is Imani Barnes. How are y'all? Thank you guys for having me today. I am Imani Barnes. I'm running for House District 86, as everyone knows. I'm a 20+ year biomedical research scientist. I've been 14 of those years at Emory University. I'm a parent. I'm a youth advocate. I'm a community advocate. And I also am a public health PhD candidate. So I have my background in science and public health. I'm ready to stand for equity in our community. I'm ready to fight to mitigate educational, health, gender, and racial disparities using some of my public health frameworks that would explain the need for funding and legislation to address some of these issues. I just finished a grassroots campaign in Tucker, running for Tucker City Council to be the first African-American representative on the Tucker City Council ever. And I lost by 62 votes in the runoffs, so I couldn't quit. And I'm here today to represent our District 86 in the Capitol, bring my science, my educational background, and my community work to the legislative branch. As a doctoral candidate in public health and a biomedical research scientist, I've learned to resolve issues without bias using data and systemic evidence-based solutions. So I want to bring that to answering questions and issues and fighting for our community. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies, I had your name written with an R instead of an N. So my apologies, Imani, I'm mispronouncing.
Probably got Omari's name and my name mixed in.
All right, thank you so much. Next, I'm going to pass it to Marvis McDaniel Ivy for your introduction. Okay. All right.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm Marvis McDaniel Ivy for Georgia State Representative, House District 86. And I'm just going to read to you an introduction that I have on my, some of you may remember that when I, Marvis McDaniel Ivy, hosted Dunnier Elementary School's fifth graders for their first trip to the Georgia State Capitol. Our state representative would not even sponsor a room for the children to eat in. After 19 years, she was taken out of office. Unfortunately, our next official told me that she was busy with hundreds of requests for help. Simply not true. I'm down there every year and I was told and do know we do not have many requests. I look forward to working with you, the constituents of the Georgia State Representative House District 86, and for solutions to the problems we face. And we do have problems that are peculiar to our community. I love you. I love our children who deserve a chance in life. And I hope you will make your vote count once again. I need your vote. I believe we handle our business very well. Marvis McDaniel for State House 86, and the district was renamed Atlanta for one of the lady that went in who was busy with the hundreds of requests. Elected officials are very influential.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel.
And there's
Ivy?
always something that an elected official can do when you present to them. I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Yes, we are at time. I think there was a little delay
Thank you.
with the message. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Next, we're going to pass it to Jacqueline Adams. Ms. Adams.
We see that Ms. Adams is actually signed on, but she apparently is having some difficulty unmuting.
Okay.
And I would suggest we'll have to come back to her.
All right. Thank you, Gloria. So we will stand by as Ms. Adams figures we work out her audio issues. We're going to go to the first question. I'm going to start off with this week. A draft Supreme Court majority opinion focused on overturning Roe versus Wade and taking reproductive rights away from women across the country was leaked. Republican-led state governments like Georgia have been preparing for this day by enacting trigger laws to restrict or outlaw abortion entirely if Roe is struck down. What can Democrats do to combat Republican-led efforts of restricting and or eliminating access to choice? And more importantly, what do you plan to do in the State House to protect women's right to choose and other constitutional rights of Georgian constituents? I'm going to start off with Ms. McDaniel Ivy.
Thank you. Can you hear me as well? I see your picture is frozen there. So I'll just.
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. The question is, what can Democrats do to combat the Republican-led effort of restricting and eliminating access to choice? And more importantly, that second part. Well, remember where you and I, where our victory comes from. Remember how it got started. You know, women were being butchered because of their reproductive choices. Women were being, they were falling down steps to try to eliminate pregnancies. And that's where we come from. And these were not women, they were not the least of these. We have, and I'll get to Medicaid later in another question. but they were not the set of people who are enjoying the privilege today. When it got started, if you just go back to where we got that victory from, those women were, pillars of society, children of pillars of society, and they were having difficulty with their reproductive choices with freedom in it. So what do you plan to do in the State House to protect women's rights to choose and other constitutional rights for Georgia constituents? I hope that was a time. But on my website, that is one of my platforms. Protecting our rights, protection for our rights starts here. And that is what, I will advocate for us. Stay the course. Medicaid is in serious need of reform in Georgia. It's been in need of reform. We've been working on that in the State House. So, stay in the course. We don't dump the basket out just because of what a draft is, when that opinion comes out, read it. Don't wait, for the experts to hear from them. Read it for yourself and make your own conclusion, draw your own conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ms. Barnes. Same question.
All right, thanks for that question. My first issue on the overturning of Roe v. Wade would be who is making the majority of the decisions. It's pretty much males. And I don't feel males have the right to decide what a woman is able to do with their body. So that's my first point. I don't feel like a male should have the majority of the, I don't feel like males should be able to make decisions for a woman's body. There are many different situations that a woman needs abortions. And having to explain that or to the government, or for the government to be able to tell women that they're not allowed to have abortions it does not fly with me. Not fly, but it's not appropriate for me. With the overturning of this bill may come other bills that'll be overturned. What about the legalization of same-sex marriage? How would we do if that came up to be overturned? We have the right to use birth control. Should we allow the government to decide if we can use birth control? And birth control are come in many forms. So should we allow a male to dictate if we can use birth control as well? We need to express the importance of voting.
In seconds.
Okay, we need to express the importance of voting. So all the way up in the Supreme Court, we have people that do not support the overturning of this bill. So voting and not allowing men to make decisions for women's body is my stance on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. I just wanted to check in. Have we heard from Ms. Adams? And can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Gloria, any update from Ms. Adams?
No.
Okay, so we will continue on to the next question. Conservative think tanks such as the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, and State Policy Network for decades have influenced state legislators by such methods as sending model bills to Republican legislators who rubber stamp them with their votes. These bills do not represent the will of the people of Georgia. These conservative think tanks need to be addressed at both the national and state levels. What would you suggest that Democrats do to eliminate the extraordinary power that these think tanks have exerted over Georgia's legislative process over the past several decades? And for that question, I will kick it back to Ms. Barnes.
All right. So we need to involve our community to speak for us. So in this situation, as in the legislature, I would definitely try to bring the community out to stand up and express their interests, express their issues, express their that they don't stand for these bills. So Sorry about that. Well, that's not my phone, but so we need the community to express their interest in politics. So we don't allow these people to just come and put forth bills that don't work for the community. How can you not live in the community but draft legislation for a community without understanding the people, their issues, their cultures, their religions? And so I think it's important to involve our community, be transparent to the community, and transparency is the biggest thing. Let's be transparent. Let's put out there everything we have, so we can have the people that elected us. So being an elected official, you're supposed to work for the people. And so how can you work for the people if you're just drafting up legislation that doesn't help mitigate their issues or improve their quality of life?
All right, thank you. Thank you for that response. Next, same question, Ms. McDaniel Ivy.
I don't see my video. The video is not working. Could you get someone to address that? They just keep you up all while I'm speaking, and video is on for my computer.
We are seeing a blank screen. Tech team, is there anything that we can do to assist her?
The only thing I can think is, because their video is on, and is that her camera may be physically not working.
It's working, and I've clicked it on, I've clicked it off. So if the video is
There we go.
Now it's there. I guess that's all.
The question is, what would I suggest that Democrats do for legislation that comes out, what model legislation that comes from think tanks and whatnot, the sources of information, quality sources of information. It's our responsibility to know, the issues that are going on. It's our responsibility to be in contact with our community, with groups in our community, and to know what the needs are. We have needs that are similar to other needs of other communities, and we can get together on those needs. But as far as this will be just like the choice question. For that type of legislation, you would read the opinion, understand the nature of the proposal that they're presenting in order to attack the logic, understand how it applies to the Constitution, and apply the Constitution ourselves when we go to defend our rights regarding the legislation that's being presented. So and also, if the legislation is not harmful, if it's bipartisan legislation, education is bipartisan. So when we come to education issues that are bipartisan, that they want to do a model for, if it's not, education, if it's not harmful, then put some of the issues that we need in there. Counselors that our children can go to when they have problems with reproductive choices, et cetera, into the school system, into the school, the financial break makeup. We need to increase technology for our schools.
Thank you so much.
There are opportunities in there, as well as understanding proposition.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to the next question. And Ms. McDaniel, we'll start with you. In the legislature, what strategies would you implement to combat the Republican Party from passing laws that the majority of Georgians are against? And just as a reminder, we have 90 seconds to answer each question.
Thank you very much. And it's not in the interest of Republicans nor Democrats to pass laws that the majority of Georgians are against, with this exception: individual rights. Individual rights, that makes the big difference. You understand? So the majority might be against it, but in the interest of individual rights and protection for individual rights, we would need to do what we need to do, because that is very important. And I'm a witness, and here it is. When individual Republican constituents need an exception to a law, their legislative representatives guide them through the committee process and get what they need, even though it is against the law. So that is not happening for us. And we need representation that will take our issues seriously, the legal reform that we need, and the individual rights that we present. We need our problems solved, in a like manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Barnes, same question.
So this question is just like the last question. I would like to get the people involved to speak up for the community, the actual people that speak up in the community, that live in the community, to speak up and stand and let them know we don't want this law to be passed. Like we don't live for this. This is not going to help our direct community. It might just help you guys, but you have to look at the community and the state as a whole. So my track record for identifying issues and partnering with experts to implement long-term solutions is necessary for inclusion and growth in this district. And so I say that to say, while studying for my PhD, I had to deeply delve into long documents like these Republican document or drafts of legislature that will be coming from the Republicans, which allows me the ability to look deeply into the small print or look into the small print. So I would use my ability to research and my track record. I would use my ability to research and delving deep into long documents and long jargon with long political jargon. And so I'm ready to stand up for the Democrats. I'm ready to stand up for the Republicans as well, because as an elected official, you have to stand for everyone. And so those legislations that they do draft that don't benefit our quality of life, I would love to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for that answer. And next question for you, Imani, we're going to ask, debating is a fundamental to the legislative and campaign process. Increasingly, Republicans are backing out of participating in campaign debates, indicating their lack of good faith, as well as their lack of preparedness for the job. How would you engage Republicans during the midterm election cycle? 90 seconds.
Well, I will express the importance of this because of debates, because it gives the community a chance to understand our issues firsthand. It gives the community a chance to meet the candidate and meet the elected official. And how do we express this to the Republicans who are backing out? You have to prepare for these debates, and it's also a stressful situation. And so putting an elected official in these positions in front of the community, it allows the community to see how you will stand in these situations in the State House. And so just as these debates, drafting legislation, fighting for legislation, fighting for funding for the issues that you stand on is going to be just like these debates. It's going to be nerve-wracking, it's going to be stressful, and it's going to be something that you have to do as an elected official. And so expressing the importance of allowing the community to see how you stand in these situations is why and how I would get the Republicans not to back out and to participate in these debates.
Thank you so much for your response. Same question, Ms. McDaniel Ivy.
Dr. King, before he would step out into the community, he had a large chore. And what that was is educating his constituency on the principle of love, just a simple principle of love. And so what my approach to Republicans who, may be adversarial to some of my views would be to be approachable, to be just as pleasant with Republicans as I am with Democrats, to this extent that bipartisan issues, when we come together on those bipartisan issues, as I said, get the tags put in that we have special needs that are not being addressed. Even our individual rights are not being addressed. So engage them in the areas that you're able to, and engage as far as King's principle of love. When it was learned, then King launched out. He was able, because he had a solid foundation of people who understood the principles that he was standing for. And that is what education of our community is important about the issue. So when I took the children down, and when I invite other groups down to the state capitol to be a part and open up that process to help, that it's not a big mystery, because a lot of people don't know what is going on and they don't know what to do when they get there. So we can take some of that mystery out, and we can also understand, approach Republicans as we approach any other person. They do need to be approached because we have to advocate for our point of view. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much for that response. Next question. How can the public of all party affiliations best get to know you? I'm going to kick that off with Ms. McDaniel-Ivy.
Thank you. And I just wrote it out on this page because I stayed in today. But my website, please visit my website. That's https:// semicolon and the / Marvis M-I-V. Ivy is spelled I-V-E-Y. So Marvis, MARVISMIV. That's an X, WIXSITE, how it's spelled, .com/house86. It gets really simple at the end. So visit my website. There's a chat box down here that you can, send your chats back and forth, and being open, not only being transparent, but, being of service, being available to help you. That is what I'm in, office. That's what it's going to be about, and I have an television programs. They air on Sundays, 3 o'clock and 3:30. They're Christian. There's some of the problems that we have. No one's brought up corruption, and that's a real problem in DeKalb County, and it gets addressed in a personal way. I've been walking through some things, and they get addressed in a personal way. That is the way to deal with problems, and that is the way I will continue to be open, working in the community, so that you know me and that you have access to me, not only through the office, but through many other channels. I love you, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, press conference Sunday, May 22nd, 3:30, Georgia State University North Library North. Thank you for an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel-Ivy. Ms. Barnes?
Okay, the best way to get to know me, I am everywhere. I'm in the community. I'm on social media. My website, I just put it in the chat. It's Imani4ga.com. All my social media is Imani4ga. I'm in the community. I have a youth development business called I Can Become Anything. I'm out in the community working with our youth. I just ran for Tucker City Council, so many people are familiar with me. So check out my website. I'm reachable. All my information is on my website, so you can reach me. And I do call back. It might not be the same day, but I do get back to my constituents. I do get back to the citizens that do reach out to me. And this day and age, a lot of things are run through social media. And so the best way to contact me is through social media or via email. So check out my website. It's Imani4ga.com. Get in touch with me. I'll talk to you. I'll listen to your issues, and let's learn how to get me in office and make this work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Imani. And for our final question, Imani, I'll let you kick us off. Or when I say final question, final pre-written question, we'll still look for, see if there's any audience questions after this. But what are some of the ways you get to know your constituents and listen to their needs? Like, how do you reach out to the constituents to get to know their needs?
I go to the places where other politicians do not go. That's how you reach the constituents that don't usually have a voice. I'm in places that people who want to speak up or don't usually have a chance to speak up, I'm there. Last night, I had a meet and greet event at a lounge, a local lesbian lounge here in Atlanta. And I learned so many things about different people. And that is the way to do it. Go and speak with the people, allow people to reach out to you. I have different methods, all email, social media. You can call me on the phone, and that's how you get to know the people in your community. Listening to their needs is of the utmost importance, because this is who put us in these positions. These are the people who elected us. So it is important to listen to what they yearn for. It's important to listen to what they need, because they can then not vote for you and you will not be in this seat. So it is important to listen to our community, because we are all affected. The times are hard right now. And so if an elected official actually listens to you and addresses your concerns, it means so much. So let's continue to do that. My name is Imani Barnes, so elect me in House District 86 so I can listen to your needs.
Thank you so much, Imani. Ms. McDaniel Ivy, same question?
As I told you, I do television programs on our public access station, and Sundays, 3:00 p.m., Sundays at 3:30 p.m., that's tomorrow, at 3:30 p.m., Celebrate Jesus comes on Celebrate the Lord. These are from a Christian platform. I'm a pastor, and I'm not hiding it. I'm Pastor Marvis McDaniel Ivy. These are Christian forums, but they are definitely outreaches, and they do outreach with evangelism, offering the benefits of spirituality and Christian faith. But it's also a way to reach out to the community. And I have a connection with them. As I said, I tell you about our previous representatives on that program. It's okay to give out news. And as I said, I'm working through personal issues. And I'm demonstrating them, working through them, through that public forum as well. And have one, it's very personal, it involves legal reform. And I have, have legislation already lined up. That's what a lawful legislation to address that need. Everything that's already there on the books, but it's enforcing the law. So it's very necessary, but it's still an easy and a good bill to get passed. It enforces the law for us. It involves legal reform. And the programs air on DeKalb25.com on your telephone, any access, Sundays, 3 and 3:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we do have a question from Facebook. And the question reads, no one addressed the movement to privatize public education through school choice. What are your beliefs about moving public education to charters and private companies? Ms.
McGee, you want me to take that question?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Thank you for your question, Beth. My beliefs. So as Omari stated, I am a product as well of the DeKalb County school system. It was not called school choice when I was in school, but it was called the M2M program. And I am a product of the M2M program. And I believe the foundation that I received from being able to be bused over to, I'm a graduate well, I went to Briar Vista Elementary. And then I graduated from Druid Hills High School, which was not my home school. So I was able to be M2M to a school in which I felt like I got a great foundation that led me to be able to earn my PhD and master my master's program. And so about privatizing, I don't feel like we should privatize it because I do believe public schools are imperative to have in the community. But I do also agree with the school choice program in which I have enrolled my son this year to attend a different school outside of where we live to better his education. So I thank you for that question. And where do you candidates stand on LGBTQ issues? I am a part of the
Imani, sorry to slow you. I want to give
all right, let's go.
Ms. McDaniel Ivy the chance to answer the first question. Do you need me to reread it or?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. The first choice with the school choice, you know what, and technology for schools as well. The school choice would be what representative of community needs. And when they roll out those charter schools, they're supposed to go into the communities to determine what their positions are that are going to be affected by their school, that they're building. The ones in the immediate community. Some people don't want their children bussed out, et cetera. So those choices are localized choices. In local, one of the things with education, though, that lottery money is available. Our children's educational needs should be overfunded. Our children's technology needs should be overfunded. And that is what we need to do. We need to make sure that everything that our children need, top notch, is available, because that money is also available is supposed to be for education. That is what it's for. And if we need extra schools, if we need additional schools to meet the specialized needs of different communities, then we need to, let them know that money should be available for whatever ideas and projects you need for education. And that's one of my projects when I go down there is to, keep a watch on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. McDaniel Ivy. The next question we have is also from Facebook. And I'm asking this of Ms. McDaniel Ivy first. Where do you stand on LGBTQ issues?
Again, when I was interviewed by another progressive campaign that did not understand this point. I mentioned earlier how Republicans get their constituents' needs met, even when they're asking a special committee to do something that's against the law, to break a law. They make an exception to the law for them. So when things are framed according to our Constitution, your rights and your choices, you understand, that is why even with this draft that they've done up there with Roe v. Wade, we have to see what their opinion is. We have to read the opinion because the Constitution governs what our rights are. The Bill of Rights governs what our rights are. And so long as it's framed within that, that framework, there's no problem. We all should be free within our constitutional rights. Individual rights make a difference. And that is where the LGBTQ, choices come into play. Your rights, protection for all of our rights starts here. Thank you. I'm an individual rights proponent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel Ivy and Ms. Barnes.
Where do I stand on LGBTQ plus issues? I am a part of the community myself. I stand tall on those issues. I fought to get a non-discrimination ordinance in Tucker, in the Tucker City Council race. That was one of my main issues. I live in Tucker. I'm a part of that community, and we don't have an NDO here in Tucker. So you are able to discriminate upon people and individuals if you feel in Tucker without any consequences. And so I stand tall on LGBTQ plus issues. I will continue to. As I said, I had an event at the club last night, or the lounge, and it was great to be in a different atmosphere while speaking politics because they are interested as well. They have issues. They have legislation that needs to be passed to protect. And as Ms. Ivy said, we are individuals, so we should be protected as individuals, not by your gender, not by your race or your sexual orientation. And so just being a human is we need to understand that everybody bleeds red blood, and that's how I live my life. So being an LGBTQ, it doesn't matter. We have to understand that we are all human, and when we understand that, then we can move forward in this nation. And so I support LGBTQ plus. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barnes. And with that, if there are no more questions, there is another question from our Zoom panel. If elected, how will you work to stop the legislature from banning books and topics that are central to learning our history? Ms. Barnes, do you want to take that question first?
Learning all of our history is important, not picking snippets of our history. How are we going to learn about what really happened if we only pick snippets? And who are the people picking these snippets of the history that we want to learn? And so as an elected official, I would definitely stand on including these books in schools. We read them as a child, and it didn't affect us. How did it affect us? We were more knowledgeable about our history with these books on the shelves. Now, children aren't really reading books anymore, so we need to put them in electronic form and explain. We're better able to explain things with Google. They can go look up things that they don't understand. And so putting these books back on the shelf is important for us to understand the whole capacity of our history. And the books some of these books that they're banning don't even afford us everything our history holds. And so teaching, if we're going to teach history, let's teach all history. Let's teach the positive Black history and not just the slave history. We invented curling irons and we contributed to so many things in society. Our cells are used to this day from a Black woman. And so let's teach our people that, let's teach our children that, white children and Black children that. Let's not just teach them about the white history and how we were slaves. And so I will go on and on about this issue. We should have more time because Ms. Adams didn't show up. And so if I can still continue to talk, let me go.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Barnes. I wish I could. And this has been a great discussion so far, but we have to continue just for the sake of time. Ms. McDaniel-Ivy, same question.
Thank you. Right. You know, critical race theory is an important concept. And I think that in the Georgia legislature, we have different districts and it's broken down to pan out the authority, which means that you can go to this area and this is important to them, and this area and that's important to them. The school districts, in other words, should have the power to determine, you know, what books they're going to purchase, et cetera, which brings it closer to home rather than the state regulating those types of things. So putting the decisions back into the hands where, you know, self-government is important, and that is important to smaller communities, that you have a say in the way, in the things that affect your life. So involving removing books from the as at the state level, it should be a process where you can be involved in by visiting your local PTA, making, you know, decisions, making requests for books to be put on the shelf, as well as, you know, requesting that, you know, whatever books may be questioned. That's up to you at the local level. I don't think that's a state level function. I really don't. So if anything like that is actually going on, you know, and the critical race theory is something that's in a totally different category. And we all have opinions about that. So I'm for critical race theory. I believe that we also, you know, we have to have an understanding of our history. Don't leave it behind. That's what I feel about our history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. McDaniel-Ivy and Ms. Barnes. This has been a great discussion and learning more about how you plan to lead in this office of House District 86. I wanted to open the floor for closing statements for both of you. We'll start off with Ms. Imani Barnes.
First off, I want to say thank you again for this forum. Thank you for allowing us to address our issue. Speak on our issues and allowing the community to meet us. Once again, my name is Imani Barnes. I'm running for House District 86. I'm ready to be your next state representative. I am a scientist. I am a mother. I am a youth advocate, and I'm ready to put my science and knowledge to work in the Capitol. I am also a product of the DeKalb County school system. I've been here, I've grown up here, and I also still work in DeKalb County. And so I'm ready to represent the constituents in DeKalb County in District 86 at the Capitol. I'm ready to fight for your issues. I will listen to you. I will take your issues to the Capitol, and let's try to mitigate some of these issues to improve our quality of life here in DeKalb and in Georgia. Imani Barnes for House District 86. I'm second on the ballot. You skip the first one, check the second one, and you're done. I appreciate y'all. Imani 4GA.com. Go follow me on social media. Follow my journey. I'm out in the community. I might be out in your community. So follow me on social media so you know where I'm at. And I appreciate it. I appreciate this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barnes and Ms. McDaniel, your closing statements for House District 86.
Thank you. My name is Marvis McDaniel-Ivy, and I am a candidate for a state representative of Georgia State Representative House District 86. I'm down there every year anyway. I advocate for our needs as a volunteer. So the main difference that when I get elected, I believe you'll do the right thing for us is to, I'll be getting paid for what I do anyway. I'm down there every year advocating for the various different, important issues, housing disparities. Here are some of the issues and political concerns that you'll find on my website. Technology for education is so very important. You know, one of the stats showed that there were 60,000 candidates for a position for technology positions, but there were only so many, there were 100,000 of positions open. So our children need the top. They need to be highly equipped in the area of technology. So technology for education, the top level is very important. Voter rights, we know we have to continue that. Voter rights is going to be ongoing for a time now. They made changes to our districts, et cetera. Recreational and beautification, that's going to improve our property values. You know what? Our property values, just like everybody else, our community needs to be protected and kept safe for our quality of life. Legal reform is important. It is very important. Some of you may know about my precious loved one, and I don't want to get it too personal. You can watch on Sundays, 3 o'clock and at 3:30, DeKalb25.com, as well as go to my website. Thank you
so much. Thank you both. This was a great discussion. And now I'm going to pass it to Ms. Gloria Moore to close us out.
Thank you so much. First of all, our candidates have been fantastic. They've given us a real look at what they'll be doing for us and what their platform is. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us this afternoon. And thank you so much to Mike and Ocha, our moderators, for doing their jobs with introducing the candidates and interviewing them with questions. And thank you very much to our support staff, volunteer support staff, as a matter of fact, for being here today and taking really good care of our candidates. We don't know what happened with Jacqueline Adams. We show her listed on our attendance, but for some reason she could not get in, and we're sorry to have not been able to talk with her. We are moving on to another series of forums now. If someone will drop in the link, drop the link in the chat for the 5 o'clock, no, 6 o'clock, sorry. The 6 o'clock forum for District 88 and District 90. We are going to sign off here, and we will see our audience hopefully back at 6 o'clock for the House District forums with the candidates for 88 and 90. I promise you it will be exciting. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.